So I wanted to make another video about this. I know I talked about this a little bit on the Leon versus Colby review that I did, but man, this really does grind my gears. Where it really is like, okay, I get it. Colby is a very cringe person. I wouldn't consider myself a Colby fan. I do like him though because he does create chaos as he's known as, and he does make things fun. Like if he wasn't on that press conference, it probably would have been a lot boring if you had, boring Leon Edwards there, and you had, Sean O'Malley doesn't really. He's not a charismatic guy. Look what he's. How could he be, right, with what he's doing with his wife and all of that? But it's good to have people like that around. They make things interesting. They start a fire. It's real good. Even though people will say they hate it, he makes people a lot of money, and he does bring in a lot of eyes. Just because even if you don't like him, you want to see him get beat up. So it's good for the sport. Honestly, guys like that are much better for the sport than a guy like Leon or some of these boring champs, like some of these champs, they just, I get it. Not all of them know English. So it's like at that point, you have to give them a pass. But some of these guys are so boring that it's like, I don't even understand why they even want to be a fighter, because fighting, yeah, it's about who's going to be the best, but it's also entertainment. That's probably the highest point of fighting, which is entertainment. So if you don't get involved into the entertainment side of things, then it's, I don't know why you would get into a business that makes money off of entertainment. But either way, the main key point here that really was getting to me was just that everyone you could think of was going after Colby because he brought up Leon's dad. And yeah, was that a mess up thing to do? Like, yeah, it was not a smart move either, because obviously he's alienating all these people. If you want to do things in a smart way, you probably want to do them like Connor, where Connor will create an atmosphere whether you're either with him or against him. But the smart thing about what he does is he always has he creates a gray area that makes you go, well, for instance, what he did with Khabib, you could easily say, well, look what Khabib did to Artem, right? He went up to his guy with a group, and they were basically bullying this guy, and they're putting the hands on him, and they're, pointing their finger as if like, hey man, we'll end you right here. And obviously Conor is a very loyal guy, so of course everything he did, you could, in a way, if you're a Conor fan, you could in a way say, well, it's justified what he did because look what Khabib did, right? Khabib started this and we're just ending it. So you could argue that. But of course, what Colby does is he just doesn't have that kind of, I don't know, political verbal IQ where you could read a room and you kind of understand like how far you can go without going too far, which would be like obviously every single person in the room would hate you. And it's like, I don't like it's good to say, you know what, I can't win everybody, but I know I can win half the room. And if I go further than that, then I'll lose that half and then you'll be on your own. So I just don't think he has that ability to do that because obviously, honestly, he never talks about his camps or anything like that. But if he did, I wouldn't be surprised if it's very difficult for him to get sparring partners. Maybe he only has a couple coaches that only specialize in certain things that he can even reach out to because so many people dislike him. So, like, everything he's doing might be making him money, but if he obviously took a step back off the gas a little bit, like he would still be driving the car, but he just wouldn't be so out of control. Let's just say. But it does bother me about how Driscus and everything he said, and Sean O'Malley jumped on board with that, and they were attacking Sean's dad and everything that happened to him as a kid. But then when Colby does it, he has like all of Twitter, all of everyone coming after him, saying that he's this and he's that. And then obviously he gets kind of attacked at the press conference, right? He has a bottle thrown at him. I'm sure he's getting all kinds of death threats, all the typical stuff when you piss people off. But it's just that hypocrisy where Driscus probably went deeper with it, because he not only created the wound, but he also kind of drove his finger in and kind of twisted a little bit in order to really get in there deep. And Sean O'Malley jumped on top. I'm not seeing anyone tag Sean O'Malley. I'm not seeing anyone tag Driscus. No one's calling him, you're a piece of this, you're a that. I'm not hearing anyone say you deserve this and you deserve that. I can't wait to watch you go to sleep on your next fight. I'm not nothing. Nothing. I'm not seeing anything. And imagine too, technically that situation was worse because like I mean, talking about, well, someone's dad died, and his dad, I don't think died recently. It was probably something that happened years ago. Whereas, well, I guess you could say that obviously Sean and that whole situation happened when he was a kid, so that was a long time ago. But you could just kind of tell which one would probably hurt more. Either your dad doing something to you, as opposed to, your dad, you know, um, getting taken out in like a sort of possible accident situation. But again, it's the hypocrisy. I mean, that situation with Driscus led to a fight with, I mean, luckily no one got hurt, but again, there was like kids literally like inches away from the battle. Driscus could have gotten hurt. He could have gotten cut. I mean, look at the Charles Oliveira situation, right? He could have gotten cut. The whole fight could have been off. Uh, what if Sean had like hit his head on something? I mean, it could have been like the whole thing could have went totally left. We are so lucky that Driscus didn't get cut, Sean didn't get hurt, no one else did. Because imagine that. Imagine, he's throwing punches and he falls down on a baby or something. I mean, just imagine how that would make someone feel, like because they lost control, that happened to someone else. I mean, there's so many like horrible things that could have happened in there, and yet no one is talking about it. All I'm hearing is people saying, "Oh, Sean's a, he's a badass," and I'm hearing, Driscus doesn't care. Luckily, he took no damage. He's got a big head. He was even saying that it looks like he might have the advantage in the fight because Sean did absolutely no damage to him, not only internally, but also externally. You can't see any marks on him, even though he hit him at least a dozen times. He didn't make any marks whatsoever. And Driscus looked totally emotionally fine, so I would assume that it didn't do any internal damage. So that's not a smart move on Sean's part because that is important information. A lot of guys will give up a round or two in a fight just because they don't know the other guy's power. So they're like, if I take, like let's say you're fighting Connor, right? You're not going to just run in there because if you take that left hand, you're coming from the assumption that if it's knocked everyone else out, it's probably going to knock you out. So you're going to fight very cautiously to the point where you'll probably give up rounds because of that. I mean, look at what happened to Colby with Leon. I mean, he was fighting so cautiously. You could argue he gave up 3 rounds before he started fighting. So with Driscus having that information on Sean about, well, he has no power, he would be more inclined to say, you know what, if it comes to a position where I have to take one in order to give one, he would obviously do that. Not to mention that's also what Driscus wants because Driscus is obviously the bigger, stronger guy compared to Sean. And so he already has that info that potentially Driscus might be the better wrestler. I mean, he did take him down there. And potentially he might also have more striking power because he felt the power of Sean and was not impressed even at all. And you couldn't see any damage in him at all. So, I mean, not a smart move on Sean. It's usually never a smart move to let your emotions control you. Anytime you do that, usually that most of the time leads people ending up in jail. It leads them to, buying a lot of stuff they shouldn't have bought, just obviously being taken advantage of. That's the way you manipulate people usually, is primarily through their emotions. So it's never a smart move. Don't ever let your emotions just take advantage of you like that. You always need to be in charge of that stuff. But yeah, this is the thing that kind of just grinded my gears. That Sean, no backlash. Driscus, no backlash. There should have been some backlash on Sean. It was not a smart move to do what he did at all, especially if he's trying to make himself be, build a brand on like this is the man, right? This is the tough guy. This is the guy that we should aspire to be. And he's getting into emotional fights in places like that. And he's starting them. It's not like he defended himself. He jumped over. He started the fight because, well, that guy was, he said some stuff that triggered me, and now I'm getting into a fight with him. Like, definitely not a good look for Sean. But again, the hypocrisy of the MMA community, we could see it. We could see that Colby gets all of the hate. Sean O'Malley, whatever, who cares? Even if he did the same thing, who cares? Even if Driscus did it, not even a slap on the wrist, who cares? So, I mean, if we want to go after people, we have to be, at least, it doesn't have to be 100%. Like, it's not like we would ever go after Sean O'Malley or Driscus the same amount as Colby, but you can clearly tell that people just wanted to have a reason to go after Colby, and he gave it to them which he probably knew what he was doing. But again, it's like we should keep it somewhat in the ballpark. People should be like, hey, Driscus, you shouldn't be talking about his dad either. Hey, Sean, what are you doing talking about his dad molesting him? That's fucking weird. Why would you even say that? So we should keep it as close to 100 as percent as possible if we want to be taken seriously.